Welcome, everyone, to True Patriot Love's very special youth event at the annual National Tribute Dinner. My name is April Young, otherwise known as Calypso, and I am the very lucky camp director of a place called Camp Maple Leaf. Camp Maple Leaf, for those of you who don't know, is a magical summer camp on this amazing island. And we have kids come from all over Canada who are part of Canadian military families, both those who are serving as well as veterans kids. And they come to the island and do such fun things like canoeing and baseball and carnivals, and it's like nonstop action. But I could talk forever on this topic because camp is my favorite thing and my favorite place in the world. But we have other things to talk about tonight, because tonight, Canadians like you from all across the country are gathering together to honor and celebrate and thank those who have served in the Canadian Armed Forces and the families that stood with them. I am so thankful that you are joining us here tonight. We are going to go on some super fun adventures together, learn a bit about Canadian Armed Forces, some of their equipment, and even have an opportunity to do a fun craft together. So, let's get started. I am very excited to share this special surprise with you. Have you ever wanted to see what's inside an underground bunker? To learn about how politicians and senior members of the armed forces would have been protected just in case of an emergency? Well, my friends at the Dieffenbunker in Ottawa are going to take you inside one right now and tell you all about its history and who would have spent time inside there together. Let's go.
Welcome to the Dieffenbunker. Join us today on a tour of this 4-story underground facility. Between 1962 and 1994, this top-secret facility was intended to protect designated officials from the Canadian government and military from the threat of a nuclear attack. And they would be in here for a 30-day lockdown. 30 days was the time that we believed it would take for most radiation in the area to fall to relatively safe levels.
The Dieffenbunker is now a museum and National Historic Site, teaching the public about Canada's Cold War history. Follow me down the 150-meter-long blast tunnel and we'll head inside the bunker. We are now inside the War Cabinet Room, where important decisions would have been made by members of the Canadian federal government. TVs in the room would have allowed communication between different departments and offices operating in the bunker.
Not every member of the Canadian government and military would have been invited into the bunker for lockdown. It could house a maximum of around 500 people who would be designated as the most important individuals from 3 categories of people: government, military, and civilian. Imagine nuclear bombs have just been dropped on Ottawa and other major Canadian cities. We're safe here in the bunker, but we need someone to communicate evacuation plans to the general population. Who can help us with that? A CBC broadcaster. This is just one of the important roles that civilians would have filled within the bunker. After an emergency signal, CBC radio stations on the outside would have all tuned their frequencies to match the one in here, allowing a designated Voice of Canada to broadcast to the entire population at once. This person would be responsible for giving the population reassurance that the government was still functioning and instructing them on emergency procedures to better protect themselves in their homes and in community shelters. Officials in the bunker may be suffering from injuries that they sustained on their way here, or they could be suffering from the effects of radiation poisoning, which is a more long-term effect after a nuclear blast. Who in the bunker might be able to treat them? A doctor or a nurse. This civilian role would have been crucial in ensuring the rest of the bunker's inhabitants could continue their work safely. After a week underground, we would have run out of fresh food. Cooks were essential military personnel who were tasked with preparing enough rations to feed the bunker's inhabitants for the remainder of that lockdown. About 200 people could be fed at a time in this cafeteria, and meals were served every 3 hours, 24 hours a day, to ensure that everybody working here was well fed.
There was also an area in the cafeteria for playing shuffleboard, darts, and cards, and a small shop where snacks could be purchased.
We've received an encoded message from a spy. Who can decode it for us?
Cryptographers were military personnel working from the Message Control Center, responsible for processing and distributing messages to anyone who needed the information they contained.
From this room, messages were loaded onto magnetic tape that would be passed through a slot in the wall into the encryption room, where they could be encoded and distributed to anyone else who needed them. Cryptography was vital in wartime communications to keep any information from falling into enemy hands.
After a nuclear attack, many Canadians not protected by the bunker would have been without food, water, and shelter.
Who can come up with a plan to assist these people? Ministries such as Transport, Justice, and Finance would have helped evacuate civilians to safe locations, adapt the federal budget to pay for resources, and ensure those resources were delivered to the population where they were most needed.
As we enter the Bank of Canada vault, we pass by the solid stainless steel door that weighs 13 tons. Here we are 75 feet underground at the bottom level of the bunker. The vault is where the government would have stored all the gold Canada owned in the event of a nuclear attack, to ensure we had money to rebuild the country. If all of Canada's gold was stored in the vault, it would have been stacked only 10 inches high off the ground. Let's make our way back up to the top of the bunker to conclude our tour. Today you've seen inside what used to be a top-secret facility. Now, the Dieffenbunker is open as a museum, full of artifacts and stories that show you what life would have been like for the Canadian government, military, and civilians during a major time of transition during and after a nuclear attack.
Thank you for joining us on this tour of the Dieffenbunker, and we hope to see you underground soon.
Wow, how cool was that? I don't know if I could spend much time underground. That is far deep, my friends. Exciting stuff. Now, I'd love to introduce you to a friend of mine. Her name is Dr. Kari Price. Kari is a super talented author who wrote a book called We Have Superpowers. We became friends when Kari and her sister Kirsten came to share their wonderful book with our hero campers at Camp Maple Leaf. This is a story about the amazing role children play just by being themselves in the support and recovery of their parents or loved ones who may have been injured while serving in the military. Let's have a listen to Kari and her daughter.
We Have Superpowers by Kari Price and Kirsten Price. This is a story about superheroes. Mums, dads, friends, and neighbors who did extraordinary things. They jumped out of airplanes. They fixed people who were hurt. They brought food to hungry children. They tamed dragons. Their work was hard. Sometimes it hurt them. Sometimes it changed them. Some of them came home broken. Others became sad and gloomy. A few got very sick. Fortunately, they are not alone. They have a special team helping them to remember that they are superheroes. Sophie's mum once flew through the clouds under a giant parachute. The wind whipped through her hair as she dived to the rescue. Now, Sophie pushes her mum's wheelchair as fast as she can as they chase down the wind. Their imaginations take them on a supersonic journey around the world. They run with lions in Botswana, hop with kangaroos in Australia, strut with penguins at the South Pole, and they fly with eagles from Mexico to the Yukon. Sophie's mum says that together they can reach the stars. Philippe's uncle once protected people on city streets and in market squares. He ran into the most dangerous places to lead children and their families to safety. Now, Philippe curls up next to his uncle on the living room couch to keep him company. Sometimes his uncle can't sleep because of the monsters, thunderstorms, and spiders caught in his head. Then they share tall tales and adventure stories until the worry lines disappear from his uncle's forehead. Philippe's uncle says he always feels safe with his nephew by his side. Fatima's neighbor, Viola, once found the safest paths for people to travel through the inkiest nights. She bravely bounced her truck over boulders and bumps, across roaring rivers, and through thick jungles. Now, Fatima helps Viola find her way across the tricky paths that she can no longer see. She warns her about the cracks in the road and slithering snakes. Fatima describes the colors of the maple leaves covering the ground beneath their feet, and places a furry kitten in Viola's hands so she can feel its rumbling purr. Viola says Fatima splashes color into her world. Carlos's dad once broadcast news reports over the radio. His voice reached out to help people from far and wide. He reported on tangles of traffic to avoid and kept people updated with all the information they needed. Now, Carlos collects the strongest words, the best phrases, and the most interesting sentences to use when speaking is too difficult for his dad. To fill the spaces left by the missing words, Carlos and his dad hum tunes and invent new melodies. Carlos's dad says that with the music they create, his son helps him find new ways to communicate messages that bring people hope. Atticus's mum once worked in a special hospital to fix people when they were hurt. She could repair broken bones, sew beautiful stitches, and help people breathe. Like the very best superheroes, she also helped them smile. Now, Atticus practices his magic tricks and his silliest jokes to distract his mum from her sadness. He dances and twirls, makes faces, and stands on his head. Slowly, their games reveal hidden laughter like a whiskery white rabbit pulled from an empty hat. Atticus's mum says he is her best medicine. And me, my papa once did extraordinary things too. He jumped out of airplanes and rode camels through the desert to Timbuktu. He slept curled up into the snow under a shining Arctic moon. Now, he has a robot leg that beeps 3 times when he puts it on in the morning. It whispers shwoosh when he walks up the stairs, one heavy step at a time. He wishes he was as fast as he used to be. So, every morning I tie up my laces, take his hand, and pull him out into the sunlight. Together, we race. I run fast, but not too fast. Sometimes I move the finish line, and so we can cross it together. My papa says that we make a great team. Sophie and Philippe and Fatima and Carlos and Atticus and I are not alone. Hundreds and thousands and millions of others form a special team across the world. We help people stand strong again. Together we cross oceans, brave the dark, find new adventures, reach into space, and run races. We create light, courage, music, and laughter. You can find us wherever there is someone, somewhere, who needs our help. These are our extraordinary superpowers. These same powers live inside each and every one of you. That makes us all superheroes, don't you think?
Wow, thank you, Kari. Such an incredible book, and I know it has helped so many kids everywhere. I have had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with a lot of kids from military families, and being a kid in a military family can sometimes be hard. Luckily, there are summer camps and other programs available to these kids. These programs not only provide fun, but also connect these kids with other kids from other military families, letting them know that they're not alone. One of our favorite activities at camp is making arts and crafts projects, and I'm excited to show you all something that you are going to be creating right now. It is called an Origami Rose, and all you need is a square piece of paper in any color you wish. Now, because I'm not the expert here, I'm going to call upon some experts. Some of my friends from Camp Maple Leaf, camp counselors, Yoshi and Metro, who are going to show you all how to make this Origami Rose.
We're here to make an Origami Rose. The rose has a long-standing symbolism in the Canadian military, as it helps to represent the soldiers who never returned home. First step, fold the paper in half vertically. Unfold Then fold your paper in half horizontally. Unfold once more. Make sure to press hard on the crease lines so that they're easy to see once the paper has been unfolded. If you need to, use your fingernail to press down on the folds. Fold each corner into the middle crease to make what is known in origami as a blend space. Fold each corner into the middle crease again. This shape is known as a double blintz. Fold each corner into the middle crease for a third and final time. Now you've got a triple blintz. Carefully curl back the layers of the paper to form petals for your rose. Here, a soft crease creates the most natural looking flower. So in this one case, don't press down too hard on the fold. That's it.
A big thank you to my friends at Camp Maple Leaf for showing us how to make the Origami Rose and being the best camp counselors on the planet. A rose like the one that you just made represents families like mine and yours that continue to remember and thank the members of the Canadian Armed Forces for everything they do for us every day. Well, friends, we are coming to the end of our evening. Thank you so much for joining me tonight as we learned more about the Canadian Armed Forces, about military life, and made a fun craft. And thank you for showing your support for True Patriot Love as they work to support veterans and military families from across the country. Remember, tomorrow is Remembrance Day, so don't forget to pause at 11 a.m. and take a moment to thank everyone who has served in Canada's uniform. We sure hope you enjoyed your time with us tonight and wish you a great rest of the evening. Thank you.